Hey everybody, Double G here on the Fight Game podcast. No John LaRocca tonight. He has a family event. I think his daughter's recital, something going on with his daughter. And when that happens, you may know this, Paul. The parental, the in-laws, they like to hang out a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
So John is unable. He probably could have tried to make it, but we weren't. I wouldn't know what time we were recording, so that is why we have Paul Fontaine instead. Paul Fontaine and I were in Las Vegas last weekend. Are you recuperating?
Oh yeah, I probably felt like I was probably fully recuperated by like Tuesday night, so it didn't take me that long.
Oh, so okay, because you only got
Yeah.
back what Monday afternoon?
Monday night, I got home about 8:30 at night. So
Okay.
yeah, Monday night was a little rough, but I got a real good sleep on Monday, and then Tuesday during the day I was still kind of dragging it, but by Tuesday night I was feeling all right.
So we got to have some fun, of course.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the F4W Convention as the last topic of the evening. So we'll save that for the end because it's actually coming sooner than later, the next one. Did Brian make the call in Wrestling Observer, or Brian and Vinny, maybe he made the call for WrestleMania?
It's what I hear. I haven't listened to it yet. I'm far behind on my podcast, as I always am when I go away. So
also, shout out to the people who are watching on YouTube. I know for the East Coasters, this is tough because I'm on the West Coast. Paul is staying up a little later, but he's a night owl. And I know for East Coasters, it's a little bit tough, but this is just the time that John and I usually record. So that's why we're doing it so late. But, if you're a Brian and Vinny viewer, if you're a Brian and Dave on Wrestling Observer Radio viewer, you understand the lateness that these guys actually go live. So, so why don't we kick it off here? Let's kick it off with our should we just go thumbs up, thumbs down? Yeah, let's kick it off. Let's go thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Paul, I kind of have a triple threat thumbs up here.
Oh, okay.
And it is all AEW related. Not having really to do with Double or Nothing. I didn't stay for Double or Nothing, though I did enjoy Collision. I mentioned to you that it sort of just felt like a house show to me, like just a fun house show is what it felt like. So my triple threat thumbs up here. First one, I think it is so cool that the Young Bucks have their own branded shoe. And like for some people, they're like, whatever. That is such a cool thing. Like, because those guys are real sneakerheads. Like they actually spend real money on their shoe collection. And then, as you see sometimes on television, they ruin their shoes because they put thumbtacks in them and they put, sometimes blood happens. But that is a really cool thing. Now, these version of the pumps, not my favorite colorway necessarily, not what I would buy to wear anywhere. But if they were a little bit less colorful, I would probably think about getting them. But I wanted to just note how cool that was. Like, if you're a shoe head and then you get your own shoe, that's just really cool.
Okay, yeah, kind of like getting a basketball player or a baseball player getting their first playing card, like that kind of thing. Like not quite the same, but or a jersey or whatever. Yeah, I can see that.
It's part of their passion and part of their hobby. So that's
I personally don't. I bought one pair of sneakers in the last 10 years, so and they're still pretty good shape. So I was wearing them in Vegas. So yeah.
My next thumbs up is for Tony Khan, not because of his booking prowess or his creative prowess or his business deal making. He's we kind of make fun of rich people, billionaires. These people who all they care about is money. But when somebody does something really nice, like what he did on the Rich Eisen show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He gave away or donated to charity $100,000 or something like that. Like
I think it might have been 200,000.
Okay,
I might be wrong.
Whatever it was, that stuff should be celebrated. That stuff should be praised because It's just a really good thing to do. I'm sure, people are gonna say, "Oh, WWE does all." I'm sure WWE gives to charity, all that stuff. John Cena, we already know, but I just think it's good to point out when they do things like that because, as you know, he's often criticized by wrestling media because all we care about is booking and ratings and pay-per-view buys and house show and stuff. So I want to commend him for that. And then my last one, and this is a little bit more on just the wrestling fan aspect of things. Mariah May, you and I saw her on Collision, and I've really thought as a TV character, like the camera absolutely loves her. And then so I was kind of wondering, like, how is she gonna connect live? Like, is she gonna be as engaging? I actually thought she was more engaging live, just watching her. We had great seats, we got hooked up, we really good seats. So some of it is probably that, but I just thought this woman is so photogenic. The way she walks, the way she talks, there is a star coming out of that person if they handle her right on the creative end. So Mariah May gets my third thumbs up, my triple threat thumbs up this week.
Yeah, I heard some interesting chants for her at that show on Sunday
and
Saturday.
She put a motorboat spot live on television.
Yeah,
and
I agree, and like I think like what it is, like there's something there that she hasn't even. I don't even think she's probably quite figured out herself yet, and so we're getting to watch that develop, and and I think they're actually doing it really well with her, bringing her along slowly. Putting her. She's in Toni Storm's shadow, almost literally, but she's breaking through, and you can see it, and it's not going to take long. And I think the live fans, like you said, I've never, like you've talked about it for a while, and I haven't quite seen it on TV, but I definitely saw it in person. So
I mostly watch her because obviously when you play the sidekick of Toni Storm. Toni Storm is doing all kinds of crazy things, and sometimes in wrestling you kind of wonder, like, is she just trying to pop the people? Is she trying to break them on camera? And so I watch Mariah May's facial expressions when Toni does something weird and wacky, and they're perfect. They're like absolutely like the right comedic timing. I don't know if she's had any training on that stuff, but she understands how to react to all the goofiness. She's right there with her in the right place. She's doesn't miss a step with Toni. So that's more what I'm looking for. But, there will be an opportunity when she does kind of come out of that shadow, and then they'll have their feud, and that'll be an opportunity for her to shine big time. And I hope that she can continue improving and doing that, because she's one of the delights for me on AEW television.
Yeah. No,
what's your thumbs
starting to see it. My thumbs up is I guess in a way it's kind of three things, but it's only one, but it happened three times this week, and it's being surprised. I love being surprised when I'm watching, and and us, like, we're pretty inside, like we get a lot of info from different sources and stuff, and we're our Discord, we talk about a lot of different things, and the F4W board. And three separate times this week, I was surprised by something that I saw on TV that I had no idea was coming. And number one was on NXT when Jordan Grace showed up to challenge Roxanne Perez. Number two was on that same show when Ethan Page showed up. I had no idea, and I wasn't expecting it.
Okay, do you? We're gonna have this is gonna be its own topic in the top five, but the fans knew who she was because she looked so much different than the rest of the women.
Yeah.
They weren't sure who he was. It was like random guy number 150 until he did some mannerisms, and then they figured it out.
And there was some light, there's a light chant for Ethan Page. But yeah, I mean, they'd never seen him. Jordan Grace was at the Royal Rumble. So, like, even if people weren't familiar with her, they would have saw her there. But yeah, Ethan Page, I mean, he's been on TV for between AEW and TNA, like probably 7 years now, but not super high profile. And then the third one was, and this will seem minor to most people, but to me, I'm a big fan of this guy, and I had no idea when Leo Rush showed up in the Gauntlet. Like, and he didn't leave AEW on the best terms. So for him to just show up randomly and in this gauntlet, I was pretty happy, and like I didn't get spoiled. And often so and so's there, and like even Tanahashi on Saturday.
Yeah,
we kind of heard about it earlier in the day. We kind of knew about MJF. So I mean, all that stuff, I mean, is great, and it was awesome to see, and and it went well and everything. And I love seeing Tanahashi live.
Yeah,
so
that was fun.
Yeah,
okay, go back to MJF real quick.
But the true surprises, but MJF, yeah.
Do you think the story was that they flew him into Phoenix to drive him to Las Vegas? So that, I don't know what that drive is, 4 hours, something like that.
I think it might be more.
Like, do you have to, like, do you have to go that, like, the we know, and I'm sure he's probably, I mean, he may be the leak if he wants to be the leak, right? He's he's very strategic with how things get out. I just found that very funny. I was like, really? Like, you don't need, like, there's this event. It wasn't like WrestleMania weekend, and we'll get to this like later, but it was Double or Nothing, and you've been to have you been to the last, you've been to the last 3, right?
What, the Double or Nothings? Yeah, I mean, I've been to all the Vegas ones.
And you were in 2019.
Yeah.
The smallest turnout, like, by far.
Oh yeah. And I mean, like, MJF, like, sure, if he shows up at the airport, someone's going to get a picture and it's going to get out. But it's not like if Roman Reigns showed up or Cody Rhodes or anything.
It's just the audience, like the WWE audience for a WrestleMania. They're scouting the airports. They want to, this at the Las Vegas airport, it's so busy.
You could, like, and just walking through MGM, like, you could, like, you couldn't, like, bump an elbow without hitting an AEW wrestler.
Yeah.
Like, they were just all over the place. And I mean, and people were asking for photos and everything, and and it was kind of fun to see and hang out and stuff. And I got to play blackjack with some guys and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think MJF, I think they might have just kind of overthought it a little bit, and they could have just flew him into Vegas. I mean, honestly, they could have flown him in the middle of the afternoon, and if someone sees him, hey, maybe he'll sell some pay-per-views.
Yeah,
like,
maybe the word gets out, and then people.
I mean, it's funny because the word did get out on Saturday, and then all I saw was people trying to convince themselves it wasn't MJF. Like, even in our Discord, like, like we were, the first name people came up with when I think it was Brian Alvarez tweeted out, "Big return tomorrow."
Yeah,
and there's really only a couple people it could have been. Like,
there were some people who thought maybe it's Britt Baker, and I was like, I don't think it's gonna be Britt Baker. But,
MJF just made so much sense.
It made so much sense. Some people said Adam Cole, and if you said Adam Cole, you were right because he was also there.
Well, but he was just on TV like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but he wasn't the big surprise. The big surprise,
correct,
obviously. Yeah. All right, let's do the thumbs down. My thumbs down is also AEW related. Now, it's not a thumbs down to this person, the human being. It is a thumbs down to this person's wrestling character. Now, Orange Cassidy and Trent at the pay-per-view. Orange Cassidy won the match, beats him up after. Don Callis does an interview saying that he's going to have a contract for somebody at Dynamite. Comes out with his contract. Orange Cassidy comes out, tears the contract in half. Trent leaves him laying. Trent and Dawn do the best friends hug. And so you do the angle after you already lose the match. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what they're doing. But maybe this is an opportunity to heat Trent up. Trent's beatdown of Orange Cassidy was so violent that Orange Cassidy just came out for the main event just with a taped head. I was just like, why do we try with Trent? Because every time they try, they punt and then he goes away. Now, sometimes he gets hurt. The best friends thing, it overstayed its welcome. Unfortunate for Chucky T that he is actually legitimately hurt. And now they're doing it again. And it's like they don't give this dude a chance, because if they really cared about his character, he's laying OC out, and he's laying him out for 2 weeks. He's not laying him out for what was about 45 minutes or maybe an hour. And I was just like, man, they try to put this guy over, and then they immediately bury him when Orange Cassidy comes out for this gauntlet main event.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, I did like the angle when I watched it, but yeah, I mean, between everything you said, and I didn't even think about the fact that, you know, Orange had already beaten him twice.
Yeah,
not just
no,
once.
I thought it was. Oh yeah, you're right. It was on TV
yeah,
once.
He beat him twice.
And then,
yeah, and I thought for
pay-per-view.
sure he'd beat him, like Trent would win at the pay-per-view, and then we'd probably get a third match, and we're probably still going to get a third match. But yeah, and then, you know, to see him come out like an hour later, like, was there no one else on this AEW roster that wanted a world title shot? Like, you know, as great as that main event was,
The
mean,
learning tree. They couldn't have given that guy more TV time. That's what he wants right now. So much so he's going to be on Rampage and Collision more.
Send Big Bill out there. Ricky Starks, I'm sure he would have loved to have been in it.
You know, I'm going to see Rick. I mentioned this in our Slack. I'm going to see Ricky Starks in not Watsonville, in Newark, California. Yeah. So East Bay side of things. And I've never been to a big time wrestling show. The promoter passed away in the last couple of years, and so I believe it's his wife who runs the promotion. They often get WWE folks. Bret Hart always comes out like once a year to kind of do signings, and originally it was Will Hobbs, and Will Hobbs got hurt, so Ricky Starks is the replacement. I think it's Ricky Starks and QT in the main event.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
I mean, as an indie match, like QT's awesome, and you know, just as a wrestler. Now, I don't know if I want to see him in the main event of a television show, but I think the match will be really fun because QT's.
It's weird that you have to go to an indie show called Big Time Wrestling to see Ricky Starks.
Ricky Starks.
Yeah, but that's another story for another day. And I think the next time I see him, will probably be SummerSlam. I don't know.
All right, who is your thumbs down?
All right, I'm toying between two, so maybe I just like won't harp on either one of them and just mention them both. So someone brought it up in the chat actually, and kind of, well, you talked about it too, but I just thought that learning tree segment was so terrible on Wednesday. Like I know what he's doing, and I just don't think it's working. And I think the fans are rejecting it. Like, we're not getting heat. We're getting like, shut up and go away. Like, at least from me. So I'm so done with this, and I don't think it's going anywhere. So I think I just have to resign myself to the fact that, you know, it's not going away anytime soon.
There was an opportunity to do something that the Revolution pay-per-view where he's getting booed and he leans into it, and all of a sudden that match with him and Hook kind of turned around, because I thought that match sucked for the very beginning. And so we're in our Discord, and people are going like, nope, go away Heat. And I was like, I don't think so. I think he actually figured out how to do something with this. And people are just sick of Jericho, for one. Like, that is just what it is right now. And I thought, wow, like, he really read the crowd almost perfectly on that show. But then what's the follow-up? How do you lean into that act? How do you continue to do that thing that you're doing? And he just went with the, you know, the shit eating grin guy, you know, the guy who's not genuine. And I think we are at the point now where it may be too late. Like, there was a germ of an idea, and it probably has unfortunately passed. But now maybe the goal, and maybe this was the goal all along, I think he needs to go kind of cultish, kind of leader kind of guy. Because
that could work.
You know, he's got these two guys under his wing, under the learning tree, and I think he needs to kind of go a little evil versus the kind of the disingenuous character that he is today. Because I think the fans are like, okay, we get it, like, enough. If he goes a little evil and he goes a little bit more cult leader-ish, and he gets a couple of more people, I think, you know, not if you remember, what was the cult thing that Punk was doing when Serena Deeb was?
Was that?
Something Society.
Something Control. The Straight Edge Society.
Straight Edge Society.
Yeah, like Serena Deeb and Luke Gallows.
Right. Now maybe not that over the top, maybe a little bit more subtle, but I think they could go there, and it would be and it would be
even like
a decent
like
idea.
what Joe Gacy was doing, but just more like not so goofy as what Joe Gacy did. Okay. My other one is a quick one. It's from actually Impact this week. I watch that show every week, and you know me, I'm a fan of women's wrestling. And there was one women's wrestling match on that show, and it was there as a backdrop to a stupid angle with PCO, where he's basically like Georgie Animal Steel, and he's in love with Steph DeLander. And it was just like,
wasn't she
are we
with
really
WWE?
going? What was that?
Was she with WWE at
Yeah,
some point?
she was. What's her name? Portia de Rossi.
Okay.
In NXT, yeah, she was Duke Hudson's side piece with Indy Hartwell and the serial killer. Dexter Lumis.
Yeah, I remember her now.
Yeah, so I mean, it was brutal, and I don't know, like the one women's match, and then it's just a backdrop for a guy's angle. It's just, we're going back 40 years, and I don't like that. So that was
well.
I almost just made that my whole thing, but.
I'm glad that you watched, or I'm glad that you're here, because you do watch TNA. Yep. And we had a TNA influence on NXT television this week. So we're going to talk about that in our top 5. We'll save that for topic number 2. But let's actually get to the top 5 here.
Top 5.
Okay, so the first one, I think, let's start with what came out of Double or Nothing. Dynamite on Wednesday, they had the Casino. What is Casino Gauntlet?
Casino Gauntlet, yeah.
And that match, I think we understood what the point of that match was, is to bring in wrestlers from different companies and pop the surprises. The Leo Rush one worked on you. By the way, Leo Rush, one of my favorite house show wrestlers as well. He does not take a day off. Let's just put it that way. And the idea was like, oh, we got to build to Forbidden Door, and that's the next pay-per-view. Now, Forbidden Door in of itself has lost a little luster, and it was going to, when you are signing actual New Japan talent rather than keeping them on the New Japan side and having them cross over. You're just bringing over the best guys, so you're lessening the talent base of the company that you're working with. So then you bring in CMLL. Unfortunately, you brought in CMLL guys, and we saw them get beat. And some of the matches that they did win were on like Rampage, I think. Yeah. And so, no one is really set up on either the New Japan side or the CMLL side to be a top player. And thus, I don't think it was a surprise that an AEW talent won this gauntlet. But it was, if you're going to have an AEW talent win the gauntlet, I think the right guy won. So we're going to get Swerve Strickland against Will Ospreay in a match that, it's kind of the version of the Kenny Omega Will Ospreay match last year. It's that, like, who are the two best wrestlers and that kind of thing. I don't know what you're going to do in the booking. Is Will Ospreay going to win the title this soon? I was thinking, if you're going to save it, you got to save it for Wembley. But then again, is Wembley too early? Somebody's taken an L in this match, and I'm not sure what's going on with the booking. But what do you think about the Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay main event for Forbidden Door?
Well, I mean, you said that wasn't a surprise. I mean, I was surprised that
I was surprised that Ospreay won. I was not surprised that an AEW talent won.
I actually was, as the match was playing out, I was kind of expecting it to be Jay White, and and I'm thinking, like, I don't know if I like that match. It'd be a great match. Like, don't get me wrong. And Swerve and Jay White had a great match at the in the Continental Classic, and they were 2 of the final 3 in their block. So there's a little bit of history there. So that would have been good. I mean, you could have done Orange Cassidy, but that wouldn't have made a lot of sense after he got beat down by Trent. Pac would have been really interesting. But they went with Ospreay, and I have a feeling they're going to do a draw. You know, like, because I can't see beating Ospreay this early, and it feels too early to take the belt off Swerve. So, you know, they do the draw, and then I know a lot of people think, well, you do the draw and then you rematch at Wembley, but he'd have to win the Owen in order to get that title shot at Wembley, and I'm not sure he's going to be in the Owen. So, you know, and especially if he's, I don't know when that tournament starts, but if he's challenging for the title now, I'm assuming, unless it starts after Forbidden Door, I can't see you know, Ospreay being in the Owen. So, you know, maybe they save that for next year. I don't know. You know, like he does a draw, and I mean, they've done draws before. I don't know if they've done one in a world title match. But you know, like, I know probably the most famous one was Danielson and Omega had a draw. I think Hangman had a draw. Was it Danielson as well? I can't.
That's a good
Or
question.
maybe,
So,
but
there's somebody's got to be an AEW historian in the chat that can remind us.
But I'm a good, you know, I was pleasantly surprised and intrigued, and I will say that this is the first time in I don't know how long that the AEW World Title match on a pay-per-view doesn't seem like a foregone conclusion. So that's got to be a good thing, no matter what.
Good thing. I think it's a good thing. I did sort of question the Will Ospreay thing, but it could be a direct response to the complaint that you just said, right? Every single world title match, I don't know how far we're going to go back. We were probably at least 80-20 on who was going to win. I think the one we're like, all right, are they going to have Swerve beat Joe 100%? Or could they possibly do it later? Is Joe, are they going to save Joe for Ospreay and then Swerve and Ospreay? Like that, there was some thought there. But
yeah, the three-way, I mean, there was a little bit of conjecture there too.
But. So that was that was very interesting the way that they did it. I think the fans, at least the people I talked to, really liked that match. I thought the match was really good. The 2 commercial breaks was a little rough. I was like, again, guys, do we have to do this again? Was one of the commercial breaks during Ospreay's entrance?
I don't think so, because I saw his entrance.
Okay, I must have skipped ahead a little bit.
Yeah, no, they timed out. Like, it's so weird because they'll do the 3-minute commercial break with no entrance, and then they'll come back, and then there'll be like 3 entrants in the next like minute and a half. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to how long there is between. But I think that's just part of the charm of the match. Like, personally, I prefer structure, so I would like to have rules, and you know.
Okay, no one has answered this question for me. Can the pinfall happen before all of the talent is in the ring?
Yes, the pinfall can happen anytime. They mentioned that in the first one. I don't know if they mentioned that this week, but when there was like, I think the last time it was Jay White and I can't remember who. I know Jay White started in that thing the last time, and they even said like, oh, they're an advantage because it could end before anyone else even comes in. So yeah, I mean, yeah, and so you have an advantage by being early in the gauntlet. It's kind of like the that NXT goofy match that they do every year, where you know you can pile up the pinfalls early. Yeah, it's an interesting match, and it did really well in the ratings. So
yeah, it did.
I think we're probably going to be seeing it again and again and again and again.
Yeah, so I'm glad that they mentioned it.
Yeah,
I still think it's really stupid. Like, like to have this match where you don't know how many people are in, and it could just end like, oh, yay.
Yeah, like Moxley might have been waiting in the back, waiting to come out, and oh crap, the match is over. Oh well.
I mean, it would be, you know, the reason why the original War Games was you had to wait for the thing for everyone to get in, and then it became the match beyond, because as a fan, you wanted to see the stars, you know, the big baby faces beat up the heels. And in this one, it's more like the what is that one show in LA, where the Vortex show, where they just don't even tell you what the card is. So it's almost like a Vortex match.
Yeah,
so
PWG.
Yeah, the PWG thing. So, you know, again, it worked when it came to the ratings. We'll talk about the ratings a little bit more in detail here in a second. What did you think about Mercedes and the Stephanie Vaquer story? I really like Stephanie Vaquer. I haven't seen a ton of her.
I've seen her a couple times.
She's very impressive. I think she's really good. You know, you could put Stephanie Vaquer in AEW today, and she'd probably be one of the top 5 women immediately.
Yep.
I liked the video package, so I think they've begun this whole thing really well. I don't know. Do you know if she speaks English? Somebody's gonna have to cut a promo for her or help or get her through a promo. But this is a really good wrestling match that I'm really looking forward to.
I really love the fact that they did that video package first, and then they said she's coming to AEW. And so when she did show up later to confront Mercedes, they didn't assume that everyone knew who she was because they had already told you earlier in the show. This is something that I've been on them to do like for 5 years, because they just assume that everyone knows who all these people that show up out of nowhere are. And half the time people don't, like I've literally, like, I watch more wrestling than most people. And there's lots of times when people show up on that show and I don't know who they are. So, like I would have known Stephanie Vacour, I think, if without the video, like without the video wall, maybe not. Like, like I'm not sure if I recognize her that well to know. Like I know that some of the Stardom women that they've brought in, I had no idea who they were. So yeah, I really like that, and I thought the angle was simple and it was good. And I don't even know if she needs to cut promos. Like maybe they'll stick her with Alex Abrahantes, like, and he can do her promos for her. I think she's from, is it Chile?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think she's from Chile. So,
and then I guess the other match that they've at least announced is the TNT title match. Originally, it's so funny. We all kind of called this, which was the Bucks were going to give it to Jack. Like we all thought, like, oh, of course, because the Bucks' entire gimmick is sort of winking at the worst of wrestling sometimes.
Yeah.
And Eric Bischoff giving the belt to Triple H after he lost to Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. That is what they were parodying. And Christopher Daniels, like I think most sort of realized when he got fired, he was rehired by none other than the barrel rolling Tony Khan. If you haven't seen him barrel roll down the stage during the Double or Nothing main event, it's hilarious. And so Christopher Daniels said, nope, you're not going to be able to give up the belt like that. So he put together a tournament to get into a ladder match. So it's so funny. The tournament cannot have any interference, yet a ladder match is nothing but chaos. So it's
no seconds, no interference. Like I think it's the Continental Classic rules. And then like every time they do that, it just makes me say, well, if you can do it for these matches, why not just do it for every match?
To add to the irony, this match, or this belt, I'm sorry, was defended at Double or Nothing in a barbed wire cage match.
Yeah.
The opposite of a straightforward match.
That had interference.
Yeah. They went out of the cage.
Yeah, and Nick Wayne hit Swerve with no, what was, I'm mixing. It was
House of Black.
The House of Black. Yeah. They did the fake turn, and yeah. Good Lord.
All right. Can you do your 30-second spiel on why it bothers you so much that Excalibur continues to say who's about to walk through the forbidden door?
Oh man.
You need to get this off of your chest.
All right.
We'll turn it into a bit. We'll throw it up as a Instagram reel. Give me your spiel. Why does that upset you so much?
Well, let me first say I get the pay-per-view is called Forbidden Door and it's branding. I get that. But the actual saying walking through the forbidden door drives me nuts, because it's not a forbidden door. There's people that come on the show every week or almost every week. When I said every week on X, someone said, oh, I looked at last week. There was no need to. Shut up. It's not a forbidden door. It's a very open door that anyone can walk through. We've seen it time and again. You don't have to say people are walking through the forbidden door. It drives me nuts. Call me Cyborg Brain like Lance Storm. I don't care.
Is that what he did?
No, that's just what he calls himself. So
okay.
if you want to call me Cyborg Brain, that's fine. I just hate the expression. It's not a Forbidden Door, and it's not like Hell in a Cell or Royal Rumble or anything like that. It's just a freaking door. That's it.
All right.
That's it.
There you go.
Sorry.
Got that off your chest.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna get hate tweets. Thanks, Garrett.
No, this is you're going to be beyond it now. You're done.
All right.
You're over it. You've
I'm
said
just gonna
your
shut
piece.
off my notifications.
You've said your piece and
All
we're
right.
through it. All right. So topic number 2 here, and the Forbidden Door. More matches, the pay-per-views in exactly a month. So, but I did think that the beginning to book the show, I thought everything, I'm always going to have issues with the way Tony Khan does things, because a lot of it is just throwing everything. Like, so he really needs to have a pay-per-view called like Everything, including the kitchen sink, because that's part of his booking, right? Is to just go so over the top, like that Anarchy in the Arena. I had this conversation with Andrew. I was like, how do you top it next year? Like, you set somebody on fire and you hung somebody upside down and super kicked them right in the face. Like, what is the next over the top thing? And I forgot, Jack Perry also
Someone's
almost
gonna
died
jump
in a
out
car
of a
crash.
plane or something.
See, okay, this was my thing. Like,
yeah.
This match is turning into like the Fast and Furious of AEW. Like, the original Fast and Furious was like kind of like just a regular cool movie, and then they figured out by, I think, number 5, when The Rock came on, let's just go as over the top as humanly possible, and then that became the style. So that's what this match is. It's there going, above and beyond what we thought wrestling could be. Lots of stunts, lots of pre-taped segments, the setting someone on fire, and then Jack Perry just saying, "Hi guys, the next Wednesday."
Someone got hit in the head with an exploding chair, and we didn't even remember it.
You know why? It's because I don't think the angle of the chair shot was great. So
it's just because 8 million other things happened too.
No, I think legitimately on the pay-per-view, if I remember, it wasn't like something that was caught on camera very well.
Okay, I didn't watch the pay-per-view. I was live, and we had great seats, and it looked pretty good on live. I don't know how it came off on TV, but
all right, TNA and NXT. The
real Forbidden Door.
We saw Jordan Grace come out. Yeah. We saw Ethan Page come out, and I was so surprised how much the rating of that show was up. Do you think it was because of the whispers of those people? Because otherwise, NXT, like what is NXT as far as the ratings? What are they doing?
I don't think it was that. I think it was Sexy Red.
Ah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, about Sexy Red.
Yeah, I mean, and the increases were all 18 to 49. So, and I didn't see the demo breakdown, but I'll bet you it was probably more 1834. She's one of the coming up under the scene kind of thing that, a year from now everyone's going to know, but not a lot of people know her now. But I think a lot of younger people do. Like, I'd never heard of her.
Okay, I was just going to ask you, because you are also a music connoisseur. If you've ever heard a Sexy Red song.
No, but she's like kind of on the Billboard, like, what are they, like, bubbling up and comers or something like that? Like, it's like literally, I think her first album's gonna drop soon, and then her stuff's gonna be all over the charts. So 6 months from now I'll know all her stuff, but I didn't know much. She's definitely a personality. I mean, she seems like perfect for pro wrestling. And she clearly is a fan. She knew the characters, and she didn't look out of place at ringside. So I think that was a lot of it. And then, I think probably there was some scuttlebutt when Jordan Grace showed up. There may have even been, because the ratings are live, within 24 hours. So I think a lot of people checked out NXT when they heard that, Ethan Page was there and Jordan Grace was there.
Look,
so
you know that I gave up on that show week to week.
And you watched?
When I heard Jordan Grace and Ethan Page were coming on, I decided to watch that 60-minute Hulu version. Yeah. And I liked both of those segments.
I liked the way Vic Joseph said, "Oh, I thought he wrestled for AE," and then stopped.
Mm-hmm.
That was
well done. That was well done.
That was, like, whoever coached him for that, kudos, because it was like, you didn't say the name, but everyone knew what you were saying. And then they're also doing some stuff on social media where I think Josh or Brooks Jensen is teasing leaving NXT, and he's probably going to show up in TNA. And
yeah, so that's was my next question is,
yeah,
somebody's got to cross over to WWE or to the TNA side.
yeah.
And then what is your end goal here? Because whenever I see this kind of stuff, I immediately think like invasion, but it was too friendly. Like the fans are too excited for it to be like an invasion. But
they got a big show
back in
coming
the
up.
day. Back in the day, they would have done the same thing. They would have popped for all the WCW guys. It just seemed like it was a friendlier thing, not like I'm here to fight all the NXT. It was just like, oh yeah, I'm you know who I am. I'm here to win the title.
Well, those fans there, they'll always pop for outsiders. So having the heel, and I know we talked about this in our Discord, having Roxanne Perez, the heel, who does the promo like she's sticking up for NXT, and then you have the Invader come in, and the roles are kind of reversed. But that's just, they know their audience, and they know that when Jordan Grace shows up, people are going to pop. And but the difference is with Ethan Page, yeah, he's gonna get that pop when he shows up, but he's going after Trick, and they love Trick.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what the end game might be is that big show that they're doing in July on summer or Money in the Bank weekend. They got a big NXT show, and they got a lot of tickets they got to sell. So maybe it's going to be like a TNA versus NXT thing, and you've got a lot of talent in TNA that has never been seen on that kind of stage, but has name value in Canada. Like a Josh Alexander, Speedball Mike Bailey. Some of those names, if they can get them into the mix, and then it helps the NXT people develop because they're getting to work with some really great people. It helps those NXT people or those TNA people increase their name value. I heard Jordan Grace is getting 6 figures for this. Good for her.
That was interesting because if she's getting 6 figures, I wonder if she's going to have to work like a main card show.
Well, they said 3 appearances. So this being the one that she just did, being one of them. So that's more money than most of the people in NXT make in a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think it's $60,000 for like some of the ones that are just starting out.
So Billy N mentioned something. Do they still do this show, Multiverse United?
Yeah, they do. It's usually with New Japan, but yeah, that would be great. I mean, on TNA Plus.
Could you do a show? So Billy basically said NXT will be part of the TNA Multiverse United.
Yeah.
Can you do a show with New Japan Wrestling folks and NXT folks on the same show though?
I don't know. I mean, I think WWE would allow it. And I don't imagine New Japan would be too upset about it. I don't think Tony Khan would like it. So like I don't know, but maybe it would be NXT replacing New Japan.
Yeah, it could be that
New Japan, because I think they usually do it in July or August, and because it's usually around the time of All Out. Was the time they would do it, and then they would do one at WrestleMania weekend as well. They did one this year, so but they do all kinds of brands. Like they got Stardom, they got MLW. Like it's almost more of a forbidden door than what AEW does. So I'm I'm intrigued, and I want to see where it goes. And I will say they did show footage from NXT on the TNA show tonight.
Okay.
Which the only other time they did it was when Jordan showed up at the Royal Rumble. They showed highlights of that. So it was interesting.
All right, number 3 here. Let's talk a little bit about AEW business. The television rights stuff actually made it into mainstream publication recently. Actually, you know what? Puck News is a subscriber thing, so I don't know how mainstream. It's not like it was posted in Variety or the Hollywood Reporter. But there's talk about this stuff now, which I was surprised to see because I just sort of saw it as a little bit more small fry than anything else. But hey, if Matt Bellany is talking about it, it's sort of important. What did you think of their rating today? Was it 789,000, and then what was it, a 0.25?
Yeah, the overall viewers was not bad. I mean, it was it was the best they'd done since they showed the Punk footage, and going back before that, probably about a month before that. So really, like, if you take out the Punk footage one, it was still the best in like 2.5 months.
No basketball playoffs, but there was
correct.
hockey, correct?
There was hockey. I didn't see the hockey number, but I know that series has been doing really well. Edmonton, Dallas. I think I'm not sure if it went against the whole game on the East Coast. I think that would have been a later start. So maybe the first hour might have went unopposed, but don't quote me on that. I'd say the overall viewer number was, okay, pretty good. Maybe I think the 0.25 is disappointing.
Yeah.
Considering they did a 0.24 last week against competition. And this is coming off a pay-per-view. You had Mercedes' first TV match. You had the gauntlet.
Unannounced, though. They
unannounced.
Did not announce she was going to have a match.
They did not, but she was advertised for the show.
Yes.
And you had Swerve advertised to wrestle. You had John Moxley advertised to wrestle. And honestly, those two segments were the worst performing segments on the show, which I think tells you that people want to see those guys have real matches and not have 12-minute matches against people that aren't even in their league. Going 50-50. Like, it just, to me, like, those are the kind of matches that I'm getting kind of tired of as an AW fan. But I was very, very impressed with the way the main event held up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's Will Ospreay as a draw or if that's the Casino Gauntlet itself.
So my hypothesis was that I thought it would do fairly well because WWE would do these long gauntlet matches back in the day on Raw, and they would hold the rating. Yeah. Because, it's a long match and there's a little bit of surprise about who's coming out next. And that's what this whole entire match was, which was about who was going next. You had a comment about there being more than one TV break, which could hurt it. And it didn't. I mean, I'm sure if all. But, if they only had one, then the rating might have been even bigger.
People might have stuck around for the TV breaks thinking that they might see another entrant.
Yeah, possible.
Because there were two breaks in that last, like in quarter 8 before the overrun, and they gain viewers. You never gain viewers on a 2 break segment, so something was up there. And I'm going to keep an eye on Will Ospreay's matches because I have a feeling that maybe Will Ospreay wrestling is pretty special. I mean, I know it is, but people want maybe the kind of special that people want to see. He's got a match advertised for Saturday against Kyle O'Reilly, which should be a great match. I mean, it's the same kind of match we talk about. We know Kyle's not winning.
Yeah.
We know it's going to go 15 minutes, and we know there's going to be tons of near falls, and Will's going to win. Like, we know that. But if seeing Will Ospreay wrestle is a draw, we'll see on Saturday, I think. Bring
the Os Cutter back as a finisher. What if he wins multiple matches with the Os Cutter again? I was surprised. I was like, wow, that's the end there. Huh?
Well, he's scared to use every other one. That's his character, right? The Hidden Blade he didn't want to use this week. But I kind of want to see heel Will Ospreay just kill everyone with everything, but that's 4 years down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this AEW TV rights story.
Yeah.
I don't, it sounds like, we'll probably get something in the Observer. So for folks who are watching live tomorrow morning, for folks who are listening on podcast, probably already out. I don't know exactly what Dave's going to write in the Observer, but he mentioned on Wednesday night's show that the number that he thinks it is, he thinks it's actually a successful number, which is great. And I find it interesting because, we live in this society where information is in abundance. We have more information about stuff than ever before. Yet, comprehension may actually be at the lowest point. Because Bellamy's post used the word disappointed. Tony Khan was disappointed in the first offer, or however he wrote it. And people ran with that, disappointed. Now, what does disappointed mean? Well, he didn't sign the thing, so, he did. Maybe that was the disappointment. But in that entire piece, he also said the TNT Sports guy wants all 5 hours. He thinks that they need, that they would like to have all 5 hours back, and that's a very positive thing. You're talking about. We look at these ratings and we go, oh, Rampage sucks. That no one watches that show. Collision, if you run any sort of competition against Collision, it does, bad numbers. But if the company is saying like, hey, we'll, we still want all 5, is it going to be repackaged? Who knows? Are we going to get 3-hour Dynamites? Who knows? But I think that's like the biggest confidence boost right there, is them saying, you're all of those hours of television, we want all of them back, which means they're happy with them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they can get it at the price they want. And Rampage and Collision, I don't think they're getting paid much for those right now. So, if you assume that maybe they're getting half of, per hour for those shows is what they get from Dynamite, yeah, it's great value for WBD to have those shows to put on Friday and Saturday night at a time when there's as bad as the numbers get some weeks, it's still better than anything else on TV. And you've got that minimum 300,000 people, that are going to watch. And if they take those out and just put random shows on, they won't even get that. So yeah, there is that value. And then of course the Wednesday night audience is really strong. Even we talk about 0.25 being a disappointment. I didn't see the ranking, but I'm assuming it was probably second behind Vanderpump Rules. So, and probably beat a lot of the network shows. So, it's, I think when you say disappointing, Dave said on the board today, I believe, or yesterday, as most of you are listening, that the new deal was likely not going to include pay-per-views, or he might have actually flat out said it wasn't going to include pay-per-views. So that might even be what Tony's disappointed about. Like maybe he wanted some guaranteed money for those pay-per-views, thinking, you know what, you guys asked me, again, I'm assuming you guys asked me to increase the number of pay-per-views. So I did it. I showed you we can perform. We're still pulling in great numbers. And now you don't want to and meanwhile, he only wanted to do 5, but he increased because his partners wanted him to increase. And then now they don't even want the pay-per-views. So maybe that's what he's disappointed about. I don't know.
Yeah, it's that aspect, the pay-per-view, everyone thinks like, oh, look what Peacock paid for WWE, and they're losing money hand over fist on that deal.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and what I don't think people realize about the streaming industry is these companies who are streaming content, they're buying all this content, they want something that's going to help them grow, which is why the UFC was so important to ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
You have to subscribe to us in order to actually watch these shows. So what is that audience for, let's say, Max? If you decide to add the AEW pay-per-views to the subscription, or to buy the pay-per-views through Max, and in order to buy them, you have to have this Max subscription. How many people is that? What's the possible pay-per-view universe number for AEW?
If you go with Dave's numbers that he's reported, and everyone assumes it's the same 130,000 people buying every show, and it's not. So over the course of a year, there's probably about 750,000 people that bought an AEW pay-per-view.
And that's about how many people watch Dynamite.
Exactly. And that is not even a drop in the bucket compared to, whereas if you look at WWE, there's probably at least 5 times more than that, and probably closer to 10 times more.
Yeah, I mean, when we saw that with the WrestleMania number.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this is kind of the whole thing about the streaming number is, let's say it is 750. Let's say it's 1 million. Let's say that AEW audience is 1 million. HBO Max, or Max, they want to go from 68 million to 100 million. 750,000 is not cutting it. Now, there is a different metric that they may be looking at, which is called your churn rate. You want your loyal subscribers to just keep subscribing until forever. Something like AEW could help you with that, but at their low number, HBO Max probably churns, I don't know, 500,000 customers every month. I don't know what the thing is, but so you're starting to see how little that audience is compared to why ESPN Plus wanted UFC, why Peacock wanted WWE. So I don't even think that it makes economic sense for those pay-per-views to be in this package, unless Tony's doesn't see them as very valuable, which I imagine he should see them as like maybe his most, his second most valuable thing for the company.
Or unless they were purchasing the right to sell them, like what ESPN Plus did. But I don't even know if Max has that infrastructure to do that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And and even then, is it worth it? And like you say, if you have to sign up to Max and pay $20 a month in order to have the right to order an AEW pay-per-view, or are people just going to figure out another way to watch it? Like Triller. Like I watch on Triller, even though it's available on pay-per-view here. I pay for a VPN and I get them for $20 or 21. And a lot of people are doing that. And if you start charging people $20 to sign up for Max and then pay the extra 50, they're probably going to figure out other ways to watch these shows.
So Intelligent Hoodlum has a good question. What about the old matches?
Yeah.
Is that even a worthy business plan? How many people do you think go back and watch old WWE content on Peacock? I can't imagine there's a lot. Well, yeah, we do projects. I do. Yeah. I'm rewatching 1989 for a podcast that I do.
I mean, there's so much new stuff coming out every week. I don't know how you even have time to watch old stuff. Like, obviously some people do.
Now, if Max sold AEW pay-per-views or got a license to show whatever the thing is, yeah, it makes sense for them to put the entire pay-per-view library on there. What does all of the Dynamites mean? Will people go back and watch all of the Dynamites? I can't imagine that that's a big driver for growth. Maybe I don't know. I think there's the next day rights. Maybe Max will have the next day rights. But the other aspect of this is simulcasting. John Alba's been on this one. Andrew Zarian has been on this one, showing the live shows on Max streaming at the same time that it's being broadcast on the on television. Though what I wouldn't know how they would do is, would they show the East Coast version to people on the West Coast? Like that's an angle that would be interesting if they were to stream all that stuff.
Yeah, and they also apparently this week aired on Twitter. So, I don't know if that had anything to do with anything, but it was interesting.
I wasn't impressed with the number that I saw of people watching, though it was early in the show. I'm assuming, it's only like 14,000 people that got a view on that feed.
Weird. I mean, I don't even know how people would have known about it. I guess they just found out by accident or something. But I think having the ability to show it on Max, that might get you some new eyeballs, because a lot of young people, they're not even watching TV. They're only watching these streaming apps. So if it's on your front page that, hey, you flip on Max and then, AEW is airing, I'll check that out. Like it the way that the algorithm works, like it's going to show you the live programming. So they may, as we go more from traditional broadcast to streaming, 5 years from now, there may be more of an advantage to be on HBO Max than to be on, I guess it's just Max now, on Max than being on cable.
Yeah, that is kind of the other thing about this deal, and we'll move on here in a second. But Dave mentioned this, is it a 5-year deal? Is it a 10-year deal? Because in 10 years, who knows what the ecosystem is going to look like? Is 150 million in 10 years going to be too cheap? Or is cable just going to die and they're getting overpaid for the eyeballs? Like, who knows what that even means, right? So that is the other thing, is, the NFL went 11 years, I think, with their deal. But their deal, a lot of it is on traditional broadcast television, not even on cable. So you're not really worried about that audience not being there in 11 years. You are worried about cable. If AEW re-ups with WBD right now, in 5 years, that audience is 5 million, 10 million less, just automatically because of how quickly cable is dropping. So you automatically are signing up to lose audience. Now you're hoping to gain or to pick up a lot of that audience in other areas like streaming. So that is a part of this thing that, they didn't have to really worry about. It reminds me of a story that I read. So, and then this is the other thing, and Jason and I, Sideswipe, have this conversation a lot, which is, what does WBD even look like in 5 years? Is it going to be a Comcast company? Their sports rights are supposedly going to be in this new venue service. So that is the other aspect. Because when you compare WBD to like Disney and, all these different broadcast companies, it is so much smaller by comparison of the value of the company. So that is another thing of that. WBD might not be the best partner in 10 years, but maybe they'll be okay for 5 years. I mean, losing the NBA doesn't help in my eyes, but I know a lot of people think that now it gives AEW some leverage. So
I think they're going to sign a 5-year deal at around $100 million a year, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more. That's my guess.
The numbers I'm hearing thrown around are a little bit more than
really
that. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I hope they do. I hope they get
But it could also be the number that Tony Khan didn't like, so who knows?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about something that I don't think anybody else is talking about on a podcast, because no one that I know except for you really watches these shows. Maybe Richard Becerra, who's also old school like us. These WWE A&E documentaries. I had to watch the Eddie Guerrero one. Eddie Guerrero is, to me, the single most compelling professional wrestler of the last 20 years. The way that we watch this stuff, you do a much better job of really getting into the stuff that's good than I do. Like, I have this really this is fake and I'm not going to get manipulated, and that, like, just the lens that I watch wrestling through is so much about just covering it rather than, the romanticism of it. But he would be the guy. Like, if I said, who would be the guy that I could just just absorb everything and feel like a child watching again, I think he would be the guy of the last 20 years for me. So I was really excited that they did this bio. Now, the interesting thing about this bio is it's all old footage shot from interviews from 2004. And you said it was from that cheating, life stealing, death, or whatever that documentary they did back in the day.
Yeah, like I think it was like leftover footage that they hadn't aired.
Okay.
I'm guessing, like I'm assuming, because it looked similar. Like,
I saw that when it aired, but I probably haven't seen it since. So that's over.
I have a DVD, but I haven't been able to watch it ever since, because there's a lot of Benoit on it.
Yes, and there's no Benoit on this thing.
Nope, he doesn't exist. Vince exists. Brock exists.
Vince does. Vince and Brock very much exist. Vince exists so much so that he used the line, "The show must go on," right after Eddie died.
It was almost uncomfortable to hear how much they were putting Vince over. That was the only part of the documentary I didn't like.
I imagine this thing has probably been in the can for a while. So
they said 2024.
Okay.
So I don't know. But like that was, and it was produced by Triple H and Bruce Pritchard and that other dude, Fitting.
I still mostly enjoyed everything about it. His story was great. The thing that I've always had an issue with, this is a hard one for me, because if you remember when he passed away, Vicky's excuse for him dying was that he exercised a lot, right? Like, in addition to the things that he did to, ruin his heart and the drugs and the alcohol, but also he exercised a lot, which is kind of like a kayfabe way of saying he was jacked up on steroids. And he did, I'm sure he exercised a lot, like to get as big as he got near the end of his career. That dude had to be lifting crazy amounts of weights. The problem that I have is, and this is what I hope isn't true, is just I wonder if he wasn't as clean at the very end. And I hope that's not true. I hope he was absolutely clean. But, as we sometimes want out of these things, we want like complete conclusions, right? And the conclusion that we got was not a complete one, because some of it doesn't make sense, the way that he died. So I've always
and
kind
they
of
didn't
wondered
even
about
really talk about like how he died or what he died from or anything. They just said he died. And that it was tragic and everything. I think what the phrase I've heard is that Eddie was wrestler clean. Like, so maybe he wasn't doing, he maybe wasn't drinking and maybe wasn't doing hard drugs, but he might have been doing, like he was definitely doing steroids.
Yeah.
And, probably not painkillers, but that's probably a gray area, like, I don't know. It's funny. They did another one of the documentaries earlier this year was similar to this. It was the Scott Hall one where I think it was footage from 2014 that they had aired on that one. And so it was basically Scott Hall telling his own life story. And that's what it was this time. It was Eddie Guerrero essentially is the narrator of his own story.
Yeah.
Which, and he's filming this like not that long before he died.
I may go back and watch that Scott Hall one. That's still on the DVR.
Yeah. And it was funny because one of the last things he said, like, if God takes me tomorrow, I think I'll be okay with it.
Yeah.
And
he was happy with how his career turned out.
Well, not so much his career as his life.
No, he specifically said career.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed that. But I was thinking more along the line, he had his wife back. He had his kids back.
All those things sort of crystallized in a very good way for him. And, I'm going to go back and I'm going to read Dave's bio on Eddie. I think it's the best one he's ever written. I haven't read it since that day that I read it. I just remember being so touched by reading it.
I'm not sure if I actually have, because I don't think I was subscribing to the Observer at the time.
2005, November.
Yeah, because I think I signed up. I think I signed up after the Benoit stuff.
So I'm just going off of legend and memory.
Yeah,
but Dave was at the funeral, so he saw all of the all of the wrestlers there. Superstar Billy Graham is there.
Yeah.
And he wrote that Steve Austin is, he was not really comfortable. He's not comfortable in those settings. And so he was kind of like far away from everybody else. But just the idea that Austin, who, is this tough guy, and, this how much this affected him as well. Like that, I was like, oh my gosh, like that was such a great way for him to close that thing. So I'm going to read it again tonight. I'm like, this is what happens, right? This is why sometimes I don't watch this stuff. It's because I immediately want to go, okay, what's bullshit? What's not, what's correct? And my memory, that's the 19 years ago that he passed away.
Crazy.
And I just want to rehash and make sure that I remember that story.
Even
correctly.
You saying of the last 20 years, like it's actually the last 30 years, because I mean, he kind of came up in like 95.
Yeah, that was his WCW run with him and Ric Flair on pay-per-view.
The way you described Eddie is kind of how I feel about Owen. So,
and both of them gone too soon as well.
Yeah,
which is kind of crazy. One last thing about the documentary, which I would tell any wrestling fan, whether or not you knew a lot about Eddie's career, or maybe you don't know a lot about Eddie's career, I think it's worth watching. It's just a different time and place. The mid 2000s, the early 2000s, these guys were just so jacked out of their minds still. And so it's just almost like it looks like a different world. But there's the famous Cow Palace. Eddie Guerrero beats Brock Lesnar. Now, they always take out the Bill Goldberg interference of that match whenever they show it. But this was setting up Bill Goldberg and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I should have been at that match, and I was not there. It's like I don't have any wrestling regrets. Like, oh, I should have been. Like, that's literally the only one. I have never been a fan of that building. I had young kids, and so just thinking about like spending, it probably wasn't even that expensive to go to that show. Spending $50 to go, driving out there, leaving, got little kids. It wasn't even really a thought of going, but it was the first internet pay-per-view that I ever ordered through WWE.com because I just wanted to see if it worked and how it worked. I think it's also cheaper as well to buy it that way because that was very early on in the internet stuff. But yeah, I should have been there. Like Bailey said she was there, which she would have been.
I think Mercedes did too.
Mercedes said she was at the in Minnesota for the show that they did when he passed away.
Oh, right. You're right. Yeah. That's right. Because she's really young and she didn't quite understand what's going on. Yeah. You're
So,
right.
but Bailey,
Yeah.
Bailey's at the Cow Palace. So I'm 29 at that time. I'm probably 12 years older than Bailey, maybe even a little bit more. So she would have been like a teenager going to see that
17. Yeah.
show. So yeah, very, very sad. And you know, I mean,
What I don't remember, was it like a foregone conclusion that Eddie was going to win or not? Like I remember, because I wasn't inside or anything, I wasn't listening. I was shocked when Eddie won. So, but I was not like, I didn't have any inside knowledge or anything at that time.
If Jason is still in the chat, he may remember. What I remember is that, so this is right before, I think it's right before all the Brock is unhappy stuff came out. But I can't remember. I seem to think that as we got closer to the show, Dave thought there was a pretty good chance he was winning. I don't remember if he outright said, because there are some shows that I was at where Dave literally reported that day, this guy's gonna win, like, you know, very confidently. I don't remember about that one though. But what I thought you were gonna ask is the legend of Eddie Guerrero at that time frame was, I think he was actually going to get the title back because he gave it up because it was hard, and he even mentioned that in documentary. It's, you know, it's harder to keep the championship than to win the championship. And I think I remember reading at that time where he had finally, you know, been like, okay, like I think I'm ready for this again. I'm ready for the pressure.
I think he was supposed to win it back. Like literally the show that he died like before. I'm almost positive of that, but you know, maybe
you might be right. You might be right. All right, last thing here. Let's talk about the convention. You and I, we've been able to do this a lot, and you know, part of the reason why I like to go, I go because, you know, we both do stuff for this website, so it's great to see people who are subscribers and who enjoy your work and who listen to your stuff. But they're also like close to us in that we all follow wrestling so closely, so that we all have that in common. So that's a lot of fun to see. You know, people like Matthew England, who has like reached out to me on Twitter before, and we've chatted, and then, you know, he asked, you know, should he go to this? And I said, you know, you can have a blast. It'll be a lot of fun. And then I guess he left the pay-per-view before it was even over, right? Because he had to get home.
Because they had a flight and they didn't expect the pay-per-view to go till like after 10. Like I felt so bad for him and his wife.
But yeah, like people like him and people like our friend Lou, who
Lou, sweet Lou.
He said his first wrestling show was Collision since 1986.
Yeah, and he said, and this is a scoop, Will Ospreay and Okada are better than Hillbilly Jim and Uncle Elmer. So that's coming straight from Sweet Lou, who might be the only person that's still alive that saw those guys.
What about Cousin Luke?
I didn't ask. So I'm gonna assume yes.
Even though wrestlers like Superfly Snuka, Kevin Von Erich, they wrestled without shoes on. For some reason, I always thought it was gross that Cousin Luke wrestled without shoes on.
Yeah.
All right. So, any lasting memories, thoughts, anything about the convention that you came away coming home going like, oh, that was, you know, that was cool.
Well, again, you know, I mean, there was the one guy, gosh, and I think his name was Sam, but he's gonna be mad at me if I'm wrong. You know, the second night we were there at the steakhouse, he comes up to me and he's like, "Are you Paul Fontaine?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, I love your work," and like he's like knows my MMA stuff, and he wanted to sit beside me at the dinner, and he wanted to ask me all these questions about MMA and stuff. And it's like, out of all the stuff I do, it's probably the least feedback I get, because, you know, like, you know, I did, or I guess technically still do, the podcast with Ryan Frederick, and he's the expert, you know, so he's the one that gets all the questions, and I'm just the host. So for me to get those questions, you know, it was different. You know, and then, you know, like hanging out with all the different people, like everyone would introduce me, and it always strikes me every time we are at these things that, you know, how visible we are in this kind of little ecosystem that, you know, like we don't necessarily realize it, and you more so than me, but you know, that we don't really realize it till we actually get a chance to talk to people and see them and everything. So there was that. And then there's just like hanging out in Vegas, and, you know, I'll be sitting at, you know, a blackjack table, and someone will sit down and they're wearing an AEW shirt, and then we can just immediately have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, like that sort of stuff was cool. I will say I sit down at the first night I'm there, I'm sitting down at the blackjack table, and I start playing, and then the guy across from me on the other side, just this jacked up guy, and he looks at me and he's like, "Why are you wearing a WWE shirt?" Or no, first of all, no, he asked me, "Are you going to the show? Are you going to the show on Sunday?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going on Sunday and Saturday." And he's like, "So why are you wearing a WWE shirt?" And I'm like, look down, and I was wearing a SmackDown shirt. And I was like, man, I don't know. I just had it on. And then I was like, "Are you going to the show?" He's like, "Well, I work for AEW." And so we had this conversation, and turns out like he's in marketing or something like that. And but then the next day I noticed him at the table, so I sit down and I start playing with him again. And then who should walk in is Billy and Austin and Colton Gunn sit down at the table, and Austin Gunn is even wilder than he is on TV. So it was pretty fun playing with those guys. Colton just sat there and played his blackjack, and he's playing, and he's pretty good blackjack player. He's solid. He's started out with like $400. He's like built it up. He's got all these chips. He had like $1,200-1,300. He's doing really, really well. And then all of a sudden, he just like out of nowhere just throws half of it into the middle and loses a hand. Throws the other half in the middle, loses a hand. I'm like, what the hell? And then he just like, he had this look on his face like his dog died. I felt so bad for the guy. I hope, like, you know, whatever, like he's probably won it back or something. But Austin went and played roulette and doubled his money 3 times. So
wow.
Yeah. Put it all on black. I could hear him from like way over. So yeah, it was just cool, you know, and I could go on for an hour telling different stories about different people we met and stuff, but that was the one that stuck with me. And then that guy I ended up running into in the elevator when he was going to work out. This dude's bigger than Wardlow. I don't know why he's not in the ring, but if you see some guy show up out of nowhere and you have no idea who he is, that's probably the guy I met in Vegas. So
I will say my favorite times, my favorite memories are always just, you know, seeing people that you don't get to see that often, right?
Yeah.
Jeff Hawkins, the last time I saw Jeff Hawkins in person, I can't even remember. But Jeff Hawkins and I have been to conventions prior back in the day, right? So getting, you know, Jeff does stuff for Fight Game, and I get to communicate with him often, but not really get to see him and, you know, get to talk to him about personal stuff. So that was great. Loved chatting with Jeff. You know, just other people who are connected to us in some fun ways. It's really the in-person thing, which I know could be scary for some people. Like, you know, I don't know, you know, I feel awkward in these moments, but really what, like you said, you know, with the person in AEW shirt, they're all there for the same reason, essentially. Yeah. You know, you can immediately just pop, you know, say what's up to someone, and they're there for the same reason that you were there. Also, you know, I don't get to see Brian Alvarez in person.
No,
you know, just once a year, twice a year, maybe. So getting to talk to him about stuff and hearing about, you know, what he's hearing is always great. So yeah, like that's of course can't not mention the infamous John in Memphis. We got to spend some time with John. I get such a kick out of John, hanging out with John. The last few years has been a blast, just getting to know him a little bit, you know, because when he's just the internet persona of John in Memphis, you kind of like, okay, is this guy just trying to get himself over? You know, what's the thing? Yes, he is, but he's also just a very, very solid human being, you know, who when he comes out here, he's getting his, you know, he's letting some steam off because he's got a pretty important and serious job back home. So just that stuff is great.
We had a great time, just the 4 of us, like me, you, Jeff, and John at Taps, you know, in the MGM for, you know,
that's probably the thing that I'll kind of think about, you know, most.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned, we're going to be doing this again, WrestleMania weekend. We've never done a convention, a wrestling convention for for WWE, unless there was a SummerSlam one that I did not attend.
We did it 2 years in a row in Vegas where we did SummerSlam watch parties basically. So it wasn't live, but we built the convention around SummerSlam.
Okay.
So we rented a theater and we showed SummerSlam on the big screen, and then I think one of the weeks there was a UFC that same weekend as well. So we did that. But yeah, that was what, 2016, 17. It was
so
the
I would
first
have
time. First time we did the street party at the Cosmo, actually, because I'm the one that paid for it. And then I was trying to get the money back from Ed, and after that, Tony took it all over.
So yeah, that'll be interesting because WWE crowd might be a little bit different than AEW crowd.
Yeah, and
so
Vegas, but it's Vegas, so
it's Vegas, and we'll have to see who comes out. I'm just excited because WrestleMania weekend. I love going to WrestleMania weekend. I don't necessarily always go to actual WrestleMania, but I haven't been able to go since I got remarried because my wife's birthday is that weekend. But now that WrestleMania is going to be later the next week, I can go. And, there will be some people who won't be able to go because of Easter. But that I look forward to all of the shoulder shows, the shoulder programming to WrestleMania. Like, I can't wait. Like, Wale Mania, I'm just like, anybody who can get me in, I'm like, hey, this is the event I want to go to. I'm sure we'll do Dave and Brian Q&As. I'm sure there will be a sweet party. There will be the Texas de Brazil. There will be the brunch. I love that brunch. So,
and Emily will be there.
Oh, so I'll get to meet her.
Yeah, my daughter. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but my wife can't because of Easter weekend. But I'm gonna be bringing Emily next year. So.
Okay, but how are you going to bring her and like gamble?
We haven't quite figured that out. Well, no, I'm bringing a child, one of my adult children, with me to help watch Emily. So, but I won't be doing as much gambling as I normally do. I'll be doing a lot of hobnobbing with Emily. I think she's going to be the most popular person at the convention.
Yeah, it'll be awesome,
with the possible exception of Cody.
Yeah, so circle that date on your calendar. Start booking your stuff. Like, I think this is really going to be a memorable convention. And everyone, also all the websites are going to be there too. So
we
get to be the place to be.
Yeah, with like Thurston and Pollock and all those, Sean Ross Sapp, Denise,
I hope
Zarian
comes. Zarian is one of my favorite people to hang out with. The dude is just like, he just knows how to just chill and have fun. So I love hanging out with Zarian. So hopefully he comes too. And yeah, so good memories of a really fun weekend. And shout out to you because we've been doing the fight game stuff for a while. I know you love to do the content. I know you love to do the podcast, but at the same time, it is a time commitment. It is, you staying up late. So I appreciate you doing this show with me and subbing for John, but also just for being a good friend. And I think we've been able to connect a lot more, not only with Fight Game, but also being able to at least hang out once or twice a year. Shout out to Adine as well, who we got to spend some time with. So yeah. Fun times. And we'll do it again in April of next year.
I'll be there.
All righty. For Paul, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.